Today we are talking to Sam Yamani from Sira in Iran. Iran is an area in what the Americans call the axis of evil in the Middle East. But Sam has some very different points of view about his own country. So, Sam, would you like to share some information about Iran for people who really only get their news from newspapers and blogs, etc.? Would you like to share what was life like in Iran for you?
Nothing like the axis of evil, the way the U.S. Citizens just call it. I mean, not citizens, the government mainly. But it's also a funny story because our government calls them the big devil and they call us axis of evil. I don't know which is which. But no, nothing evil is going on in there. We basically have a nice community of good people caring about each other under a government nobody likes. And life in Iran is way more, liberated than you guys ever know.
You mentioned under a government that nobody likes. You're talking about the Iranian people do not like their own government? Is that what you meant?
Iranian people don't like the government that we have right now. We basically have nothing mutual with them. We made the mistake of believing that these people can be better than our king, which was corrupted 40 years ago, but later we just realized, okay, that was a big mistake. And now, time by time, we are slowly trying not to overthrow them. We are trying to change the government into something tolerable.
Is that possible in a country like Iran, where there is so much military influence?
Well, if you see where we started 40 years ago, when you could even go to jail for having a video player or something, to today that we have boys and girls kissing in the restaurants, and I'm serious, it's happening, you guys just don't video it. Yes, I think we came a long way.
Because many years ago, Iran used to be a very, very progressive country.
It was, truly. It's just that a couple of events happened at the same time. We were trying to practice being independent. The stuff that happened with Mossadegh, the oil that our king decided to sell to the US by then, but then we had long protests to make it a national product again. And then later we realized that our king is corrupted in many ways. He doesn't have control over the government. It's basically his goons who are just controlling it. And then we decided to overthrow the king. It's just that our people were not that experienced in that kind of democracy. They didn't understand that when you want to throw somebody out, you have to have a very good option to replace him. We were just thinking about change. We were not thinking what we were changing.
Which is what many Americans probably were thinking about during the last election over there as well. Just thinking about change, not about the consequences.
Yes, but right now we do not believe in change of government anymore because we learned our lesson from studying the history. France had a lot of these revolutions every time the country had a major setback, right? Right now we believe we can work with this government and just change it slowly to what people want. Is it going to take time? Yes, it's going to take time. Maybe, I don't know, another 50 years for us to go back to a normal, liberated kind of society, but the changes are slowly happening.
It was interesting that you said maybe in another 50 years, which tends to be quite a long-term point of view, rather than over the next 2 or 3 or 4 years, which most Western democracies tend to think about because that's how long the elections take.
It's true, but remember the revolutions that happened after the 16th Louis in France? They did the revolution, they overthrew the guy in 2-3 years. How many years they worked to just fix the damages of that revolution? And we do not want to pay that price. Revolutions are not beneficial to a country, especially at this moment where USA is playing to our enemies. Not really enemies, the neighbors who don't like us really, like all these Arab countries. So they are getting stronger, and if we want to weaken our own government, who knows what happens? Maybe we will have another Iraq war, and we do not want
that. Life itself in Iran, in Sira, for example, which is a city of, 3-5 million people, something like that?
Right now, I think 15 million people.
15 million people.
The name is Tehran, not Sierra.
Oh, Tehran. Oh, yeah. Tehran.
Tehran, yeah.
Oh, so from the capital?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. My apologies.
Life in Tehran is, I can say, very similar to life you have in the in a city, in a country center in Europe or whatever, we have a lot of restaurants. We have underground casinos. We have maisons. We have people just enjoying themselves, and right now it's very liberated. When people think of Iran, they think of a country with everybody just covering their face or something.
That's what I was just going to mention. People imagine the fact that everyone's walking around in black shrouds and you can only see their eyes.
Absolutely not. Maybe later, after this conversation, I can show you a few pictures of Iranian girls, of how they are living right now. You will be shocked. I mean, there is a force to have a hijab by the government, but people are using that as a fashion. Colorful scarves that they just wear up to here, and fashionable like tight clothes and everything. I told you, you can go to restaurants right now, you can see a couple kissing. It's kind of like normal right now.
And entertainment and theater, things like that, is prevalent in Iran?
We have our own cinema, and our cinema is getting better and better every year. But we also have the access to even up-to-date American movies and everything.
So there's no real restriction on international coverage. People through the internet. The internet's quite free, is it?
The internet is free. I know the government is trying to, make a national version of it or something, but the people are not having any of it. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like impossible to even restrict the internet in the Iranians' life right now, because, for example, we have a lot of influencers working through Instagram, like boosting businesses. We have people who do business just purely on Instagram. You cannot just take those away anymore.
Mm-hmm. And oil has always been a big issue in Iran.
Oil has always been a big issue in Iran. It's a big source of income. But now we have a crazy guy like Donald Trump who goes against the international agreements and sanctions us. So we are learning to live without it now. Because right now our oil sales is quite down, but people are finding other ways to live, mm-hmm. to make money. We are becoming more independent in many products that they hoped us to be.
More entrepreneurial, starting up new businesses and various things rather than the traditional.
Stuff like that. We started trusting our farmers to do more job, and especially when it goes to essential need like food and stuff, we are kind of independent now. Is the country suffering? Of course. When you're under so many sanctions done by a bully, you are gonna suffer. But are we collapsing? I'm not sure about it.
Mm-hmm. Sam, you're a chef. Tell us a little bit about the food in Iran.
One of the things I really pray is that we would be liberated enough one day for the people from around the world to come to our country. Because if I want to define food in Tehran for you, I can say this is the capital of the food all over the world. And the reason is our people genuinely love food. Food is a huge part of our culture.
Well, you are definitely a good example of that.
Well, I'm trying to lose weight, but yeah, I'm still just showing so much food in me, right? But we have a lot of people who traveled all over the world, tried different food, and then they try to bring it back to Iran. So if you go to Tehran right now, you can see Swiss restaurants, French restaurants, Filipino restaurants already, Japanese, American, you name it, we got it. And on top of that, we also have a very strong culinary back there in Iran. We are one of the top, first 4 civilizations, and we have food that old that is being developed. Of course, you know that we are the inventors of kebabs, or what we call barbecues. And we also have a lot of stews, a lot of unique rice meals, our own unique way of cooking rice and everything. Mm-hmm. Food is very exciting back there at home. And very cheap. Like, you wouldn't believe how cheap food is in there.
A friend of mine traveled through Iran just a couple of years ago, and he said the same thing. He said one of the cheapest things in Iran was actually eating. It was just wonderful and very, very cheap. Which is a big problem in many Western countries, because food is actually quite expensive in a lot of places. And one of the greatest issues with poverty is people just are not able to afford enough food to eat. That's happening a lot now with COVID and the lockdown. So being able to feed the people is a wonderful thing. Another thing that you were talking to me about before was the homelessness. The difference in the way that homeless people are treated in Iran or in the West. How would somebody who has found themselves destitute for one reason or another, how would they be treated in Iran?
Well, yeah, about the homeless, I was trying to tell you how easily you can get homeless in USA over like a medical bill or something, and how different it is in Iran. Because first of all, we have a national healthcare system. So for most of the sicknesses, you can just go to hospital and you will be treated for free. But there are some rare sicknesses, like some sorts of cancers and stuff like that, where you need to buy medicine and the medicine is very expensive. That happens to you in a Western world, specifically in USA, you're homeless. You lose all your life, all your savings, everything. And you know, medicine is just crazy expensive over there. We have this system between our people. Our people care about each other. Like if you get one of these rare sicknesses back then and you really need money, what the neighbors do for you, they create an event and they invite all the neighborhood to gather their help as little or as much as they are willing to give, and they gather a budget for you to get rid of your problem. I never believed anybody going homeless back there at home because of the medication cost. It never happens. On top of that, we are having a society that is not so focused on finances. We have a lot of doctors, a lot of times, like most of the time, where they see the patient cannot afford it, they don't charge it. They do it for free.
So the doctors are actually working for free?
A lot of times,
in many cases?
A lot of times, yeah. They still make a very good living, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of people who can afford to pay them. But if they really see you can't afford it, most of the time, they still have these manners to bring their duty before their business. Like, they became doctor to save lives, not to just make money. And they still have that in them. They come at you and they just treat you for free.
So they believe in the Hippocratic Oath?
I believe so, yeah.
Yes.
And I believe that's something that kind of Western world forgot. You know, too much focused on the aspect of money.
That's right. When you focus too much on money, a lot of other values go by the wayside.
Yeah,
right?
And I believe a lot of that to capitalism, the system they have. You know, I even had this talk with a lot of expats, and they're just saying, "Oh, socialism is crazy. It's just stupid. Everything free." And you know what's funny? Most of these expats are living here on the Social Security, which is a socialist program. And I'm like, do you even know if it wasn't because of socialism, you couldn't even come here? What are you talking about? Yeah. But yeah, life can be really tough because of these problems back there in Western world. In Iran, we don't have those problems. And there is a very big difference between the culture. Our culture is still, you know, inspiring togetherness, family values. We don't have a lot of broken families back there at home. We are staying together with all our differences and everything. We have this culture of welcoming guests. And I know a lot of people are afraid of going to Iran right now, which is not really true. You can be there and be safe, just to stay away from government buildings.
Yes, my friend who travelled through there a couple of years ago, he said that at no time when he was there did he ever feel not safe. He said that the people were welcoming. The number of times he was asked to stay in their houses was just incredible.
Yeah.
He said you can almost travel through Iran without staying in a hotel if you want to, because you get asked to stay at people's places so often.
Absolutely. You know, we love guests to the point. And again, it's not even about making money out of the guests. It's just about we love guests. We love to meet people. We are a very social country. So the moment you go there, everybody tries to make you have the best experience of your life. 2017, I brought my girlfriend back there at home. Gosh, we used to go to this palace to visit, like a palace that belonged to our king before. And originally, it's supposed to be like a fee for the domestic people and a fee for foreigners that is more expensive. They sent her in for free. And I was like, I'm your citizen. What is wrong with you?
You had to pay and she got in for nothing.
Yeah, I had to pay for myself, but she got in for free. Every restaurant we went, oh guys, she got free samples of every food and something. She couldn't even order food anymore because she was already full with what she was given.
Another culture that I've come across which is very similar to that is actually the Indians from India, where they have this saying, if you are in our country, or if you are a visitor to our country, you are a god in our country, and we treat you that way. And they're so welcoming and so friendly. So what you're describing is something very similar.
Absolutely. I'm not sure that they got our country because our culture is so proud, but they really treat you like a brother or something. Like, you never feel alone when you are in there. And regarding this fact that everybody thinks Iran is so dangerous or something, unfortunately, we are having a media all over the world that is just being decided by one country, and that's USA. And they keep telling that if you go there, you are in danger, they will capture you. Yeah, we capture spies, but who doesn't? Let me give you a very actual case that happened. There was this guy, Jason Rezaian, who went there. The government captured him, and they started making a lot of fuss about it. Oh, they captured an innocent man. Okay, if you're an innocent man, as a journalist, what are you doing interviewing guys at Ministry of Information?
That's what he was doing, was it?
Yeah. And you know the countries are not in good terms. And you go to the Ministry of Information interviewing people, trying to catch information.
And it's so easy to turn information into disinformation.
No more than that. You're just shouting to the whole world, I'm a spy. And then you expect them not to capture you, not to put you in jail? Really, if an Iranian do that in USA, what are they going to do? Are they going to watch it? But then they use that to say it's dangerous to go there. Absolutely not. You can go without a problem. Just stay away from the government buildings. That's where the government is very strict about. Enjoy your time with people. Travel to the beautiful sites.
And the archaeological sites throughout Iran are amazing, from what I hear.
Oh, we have everything from nature to history to cultural buildings that you can see. It's everything. Normally they give you a month's worth of visa. Most of the time it's not possible to extend it because of the security issues. I'm telling you, 1 month in Iran is never enough. I had friends who would go there like 6-7 times so they can see everything. You need a whole 2 weeks just to see everything in Tehran. I'm talking about amazing history and beauty and everything just in one city.
Well, there's nowhere in the world the history goes back much further than it does in Iran. The old term for Iran is Persia, of course, if people don't realize that.
I believe so. Actually, that's what we are still calling it.
Some of the traditional religions there, like Zoroastrianism, are they still active there?
Zoroastrianism is still very active there. As a matter of fact, the government forces a lot of people to say they are Muslims. They are not. But if you tell I'm not Muslim, they kill you, so you just pretend you are. But we have a lot of people actually believing in that religion. I think if you really want to go to people's true belief, if you whisper to people, we have more Zoroastrians than Muslims right now. I genuinely believe in that. And Zoroastrian is a very simple religion. It only has 3 guidelines. Good deeds, good speaking, and good thinking. Just positive everything.
Positive everything. And it's a strange phenomenon that a friend of mine was at the university here, and he came home with a question: what is the oldest religion in the world? And he asked me, and I said, well, I think it's Zoroastrianism, but I'm not sure. So we Googled it, and that was the answer he gave. And he was told he was wrong, that it was Christianity. And I said, Zoroastrian's about 10,000 years older than Christianity. It doesn't make any sense.
Definitely Zoroastrian is the oldest religion. Maybe the only reason he mentioned, first of all, but Judaism is way older than Christianity. How come he came with Christianity? I don't know what was his source. But a lot of reasons that some people do not count Zoroastrians, because a lot of people, including me, believe that it was not really a religion, because Zoroaster himself never claimed to be a prophet. A lot of people believe he was just a good man, but just had this nice idea of living. And also, a lot of people think that being a Zoroastrian is easy. It's absolutely not. It's very difficult. That's the only religion that has everything to do with your thoughts. If you think of a bad thing for somebody, you made a sin. It's very tough to do that. It's not easy to always keep yourself positive. And
does Zoroastrianism have a heaven and a hell as we know it in Christian religions?
There is some description of that. We basically have 2 characters. One is Hurmaz, which is the symbol of all goodness, and then we have the Ahriman, which is the symbol of evil and everything evil that's happening. Your work in life as a Zoroastrian is to move toward Hurmazd from the Ahriman way, and the only way to do it is to be positive in everything.
And to do good, do good to other people.
You need to speak good about people. You need to do good to people, and you need to think good about people, which is very tough. There are a lot of times in my life that I think a lot of negative. That's a sin in that religion.
There's very few people who can say that they haven't been.
Yeah.
Now, I have to ask you, as we're reaching near the end, you speak incredibly positively about Iran, but you're living here in the Philippines. How did that come about?
Okay, here's the thing. The culture is nice, the country is nice, but the economy is suffering because of all these sanctions we are going through or something. So people like me who can, we decide to leave the country, work somewhere else, and I don't know, maybe support our families through the difficulties, because the economy is suffering there. But I'm hoping may come November 2020, things can change. If my American friends, if you hear me, please go to sanity again. And
you mentioned when you came to the Philippines that you actually went to university here and studied a course in IT.
Yeah.
But what did you say you know about IT now?
Pardon?
How much do you know about IT now?
I don't know as much as I know about NASA or something. Absolutely nothing. I graduated that course again just to make my father happy. Don't even ask me how I graduated. I have no idea.
So this was a parental wish that you gain a degree in something. That's
yeah. But my uncle had a chain Italian restaurant back there at home since I was a baby. I was cooking Italian food since I was 6 years old. So my dream was always be a chef. I never wanted to be an engineer or something. But again, our culture is very family oriented. So back then you do a lot of things you don't want to for your family. And it was a point of pride for my father to see his son graduate, have a education and become an engineer or something. So I did that for my father.
Marriage in Iran. Just going back to Iran for a moment. Marriage in Iran. In some of the countries, marriage is still very much arranged. Is it still arranged in Iran, or are people free to choose their own partner?
That's another hoax that the Western world is thinking, and is absolutely not like that anymore in there. They think marriage is arranged. They think you can just marry many times. None of it is true. First of all, it's in Islam culture that you can marry many times. But even from the beginning, our Iranian culture was against it. So we never had the case of you marrying a lot of people in there. If you marry more than one woman in there, your neighbors don't care about you anymore. Your neighbors don't even talk to you anymore.
So it's a matter of respect, monoganism.
Yeah, and now the government is putting it into the rules because of so many times people requesting. So that is not there. And fixed marriage or something, no. A lot of people say that because if in Iran you want to marry a girl, you must have the consent of the father or the family. Most of the time. They say it's the father. Normally the mothers are the ones being
The patriarchal society is only a head.
But that is just to protect our young people, because as a young person you do a lot of foolish mistakes. So your family tries to see through it and help you out with it. Can they say no and make your choice difficult, like impossible? Yes, they can, but it doesn't mean they are forcing you to a fixed marriage. They are just protecting you. And guess what? Sometimes the families are just, too strict or something. But most of the time, when they stay against it, they are actually right.
Is there a dowry expected in marriage in Iran?
What do you mean by that?
If there is a marriage takes place. Traditionally, in some countries like India, there's quite a considerable amount of money or goods or things that are handed over from either the bride's parents to the groom's parents or vice versa.
All right. Traditionally, because when a couple start life, they basically have nothing. Traditionally, the families arranged it in this way, that the girl's family will provide their house facilities, appliances and everything, and the boy's family spends for the wedding, because our weddings are big celebration. They are coming very expensive, trust me.
All the extended family is there.
We are talking about 200 people on a wedding every time, right? And good food and everything. So that was originally the arrangement, but we are hitting the modern times that a lot of couples don't want to go through that fancy marriage, or they already have lived together how many years before they get married, they already have their appliances, they can easily say no.
So living together in Iran is quite common these days, before marriage?
Yeah, I can say yeah. Again, the culture completely changed from the old days. 40 years ago, you would walk with your girlfriend in the street, the police would stop you and I don't know, put you in jail. Today, we see people kissing in the park or in a restaurant and everybody's like, it's just normal.
You mentioned a minute ago that the Iranian religion actually is very different from the other religions around the area. From Islam, for example. What is the difference there? Can you explain that?
Okay, first of all, the big difference between Zoroastrian and Islam, Zoroastrians have a lot of respect for ladies. Basically, the way a man and woman are defined in Zoroastrian religion, they are defined as two fruits of a plant we have, and we name it ribas. Now, something unique about the ribas is that each plant has two fruits. One is white and one is pink. But when you peel them, they are absolutely the same inside. Same taste, same color, same everything. That's how we define man and woman. Different in the looks, but absolute the same inside.
It's a wonderful analogy.
Yeah, we are talking about a culture where women used to become king. So that's the thing that we have in there. And the main difference between Zoroastrian and the Islam culture is that men are not that powerful in their family is based on everybody in it. And there are not so many religious stuff you need to do. The main task you have to do is what you do for humanity. And that's being positive all the time, even on your thoughts.
So it's very much a humanitarian religion rather than an afterlife religion.
Yeah.
It's a religion about people here on earth today.
We used to think of it as the summary of all the other religions, because all the religions are trying to make you a better person. That's what Zoroastrian is doing in 3 guidelines only.
All right. Look, I could talk to you for hours, Sam, but I'd say thank you very much. We didn't even really get to cover why you're here in the Philippines, but I will would you like to just tell us very briefly what brought you to the Philippines and why you stayed? Besides the economics, of course.
I came here as a tourist, and then my brother was studying in this city, and then I visited, and I just fell in love with the city, especially back then. A green land, no traffic or nothing. For somebody who grew up in the craziness of a capital, to me this was a piece of heaven. And I was like, all right, I'm going to stay and study. Oh, and the fact that universities were not so expensive and actually very easy to access. Because one thing in Iran, if you want to go to university, you have to go through a national test. And we have like 20 million people taking the test every year, and only 200,000 seats are available all over the country.
So about 10% of people actually are able to qualify to get into university.
Yeah, very tough to get in. So having an education here that is just accessible and inexpensive, that was a good opportunity. Together with the beautiful land and the culture of the people that is similar to our culture. Filipinos are warm, nice people.
And you support yourself with a restaurant here, or at least up until COVID, you supported yourself with a restaurant here?
Yeah, I supported myself with the restaurant, but now I'm doing deliveries. I cook at home when people can order, I deliver to them. So I'm kind of still supporting myself.
Okay, look, it's been wonderful talking to you, Sam. Thank you very much. I'm sure that there'll be very many people very interested in what you've had to say about a country that most people know very little about, except the bad news that they get on the media. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you for having me.